Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood in front of the huge glass windows of the Galactic Council station. The stars looked different here, so far from Earth. He had been waiting for this day for 20 years. Today, humanity would finally join the Galactic Federation as full members. The station was massive, bigger than any human city. It floated in space around a planet called Kepler 442b. The planet was neutral ground, owned by no one species. The station itself was beautiful and strange, made from materials that shimmered like liquid metal but felt solid as stone. Kim Tae-ho wore his best uniform, the dark blue one with all his medals. He had fought in 3 wars to protect human colonies. He had saved millions of lives. But today he was not here as a warrior. He was here as Earth's representative hoping for peace. Next to him stood Ambassador Park So-young. She was shorter than the Admiral, with gray hair and kind eyes. She had spent 30 years learning alien languages and customs. She knew more about the other species than almost any human alive. She carried a small case with Earth's formal application papers. "Are you ready for this?" Park So-young asked quietly. "As ready as anyone can be," Kim Tae-ho replied. 50 years we have waited for this moment." They walked through the corridors of the station. The walls were covered with symbols from 12 different species. Each symbol told the story of a race that ruled parts of the galaxy. The humans had no symbol here yet. That was what they hoped to change today. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched up so high it seemed to touch the stars themselves. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different type of alien body. Some seats were filled with gas for species that had no solid form. Others were pools of liquid for water-breathing races. At the center sat Chancellor Veltar of the Vorthak. The Vorthak looked like walking crystals, their bodies made of clear stone that glowed with inner light. Veltar was old, even by Vorthak standards. He had been leading the council for over 200 years. Kim Tae-ho and Park So-young took their places in the small area reserved for guests. Around them sat representatives from species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. The Etherians floated in their gas-filled containers, looking like living clouds. The Nexari were half machine, half organic, their metal parts gleaming under the chamber lights. "We gather today," Veltar's voice rang out, translated by machines into perfect human speech, "to consider the application of the species called humanity for full membership in our federation." Park So-young stood up. She had practiced this speech 100 times. "Honored council members, humanity comes before you with respect and hope. For 50 years we have proven ourselves worthy partners." She began to list humanity's contributions, the medical advances that had saved the Threnody from a terrible disease, the defensive technologies shared during the Outer Rim conflicts, the agricultural techniques that had fed 3 starving worlds. Kim Tae-ho watched the faces of the council members. Something felt wrong. Their expressions were too calm, too controlled. In his years of fighting, he had learned to read enemies. These aliens were hiding something. Dr. Lee Min-ho sat in the observer section. He was Earth's best scientist who studied alien life. He had spent 10 years solving the reproductive problems of the Zephyrians. Because of his work, their species would not go extinct. Surely that counted for something. The deliberations began. Each council member spoke about humanity's application. Their words were polite but cold. They talked about compatibility issues and evolutionary differences. They mentioned humanity's aggressive expansion across 47 worlds in just 50 years. Kim Tae-ho felt his stomach tighten. He had heard these kinds of words before in diplomatic meetings that went bad. The council was not here to welcome humanity. They were here to reject them. In orbit above the station, Captain Choi Hyun-woo commanded a small fleet of human ships. They were escorts supposedly there for protection and ceremony. But Choi Hyun-woo was getting strange readings on his sensors. Ships were moving in the outer system. Lots of ships. More ships than should be there for a simple diplomatic meeting. His communications officer, Lieutenant Bae Soo-jin, looked worried. "Captain, I'm picking up encrypted transmissions. Military channels. The signals are coming from at least 6 different species. Keep monitoring," Choi Hyun-woo ordered. "Something is not right here." Back in the council chamber, the vote was beginning. One by one, the species cast their decision. The Vorthak voted no. The Etherians voted no. The Nexari voted no. Every single species voted against humanity joining the Federation. "The application is rejected," Chancellor Veltar announced. Humanity is not compatible with Federation membership at this time. Park So-young's face went pale.
May I ask why?
What more can we do to prove ourselves worthy? Your species expands too quickly, said Veltar. You adapt too easily to new environments. You form alliances too readily with non-council species. These traits make you unpredictable. Kim Tae-ho stood up slowly. Years of military training had taught him to stay calm under pressure. But inside he was furious. Unpredictable? We have been nothing but honest and helpful. That is precisely the problem, said another council member, one of the machine-like Nexari. Your species shows too much potential for growth. The galaxy has been stable for 1,000,000 years under our guidance. We cannot risk that stability. The words hit Kim Tae-ho like a physical blow. They were not being rejected because they were unworthy. They were being rejected because they were too successful, too dangerous to the established order. Captain Choi Hyun-woo's voice crackled through Kim Tae-ho's private communicator. Admiral, we have a problem. Council Defense Fleet is moving to surround our ships. I'm detecting weapon signatures. This looks like a trap. Kim Tae-ho closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his expression had changed completely. The hopeful diplomat was gone. In his place stood the admiral who had fought 3 wars and never lost a battle. How long do we have? He whispered into his communicator. Maybe an hour before they're in attack position, came the reply. Kim Tae-ho looked around the council chamber. 12 species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. They had not invited humanity here for membership. They had invited them here for elimination. The trap was perfect. Earth's entire leadership, their best ships, their most advanced technology, all gathered in one place far from home. The aliens had planned this for months, maybe years, but they had made one mistake. They assumed humanity would react like other species when faced with overwhelming odds. They assumed humans would panic or surrender or try to negotiate. They did not know that humans had been preparing for this possibility since the day they first met alien life. They did not know about the protocols hidden in military computers across human space. They did not know about the one word that could change everything. Kim Tae-ho stood up and walked to the center of the chamber. His hand moved to the emergency communicator on his belt, the device that could reach every human ship, station, and colony across the galaxy. Chancellor Veltar, he said quietly, you have made a terrible mistake. Commander Yoon Da-eun stared at her sensor screen in disbelief. The UES Resilience was one of humanity's newest ships, equipped with the most advanced detection systems Earth could build. Right now, those systems were showing her something impossible. Ships were appearing everywhere. Not just a few ships, but entire fleets. They came from behind moons, from inside asteroid fields, from the dark side of planets. Hundreds of vessels from every species in the Galactic Council were moving into attack positions around the human fleet. How many? She asked her sensor officer, Lieutenant Park Jin-soo. Still counting, Commander. At least 300 so far. Maybe more. They were hiding using some kind of stealth technology we've never seen before. Yoon Da-eun felt her blood run cold. The human escort fleet had 12 ships. 12 ships against hundreds. This was not a diplomatic meeting. This was an execution. On the bridge of the UES Defender, Captain Choi Hyun-woo was trying to make sense of what his instruments were telling him. The readings were clear but terrifying. Every council species had brought their most powerful warships. The Vorthak had crystal ships that could cut through metal with focused light beams. The Etherians had vessels that could phase in and out of normal space. The Nexari brought their planet-killer dreadnoughts. Captain, called out his communications officer, I'm intercepting council military channels. They're coordinating attack patterns. This is really happening. Choi Hyun-woo activated his command circuit to speak with all human ships at once. All vessels, this is the captain. We are in immediate danger. Council forces are preparing to attack. Move to defensive positions and prepare for combat. But even as he gave the orders, he knew they were hopeless. The best human warships could not fight against these odds. The aliens had planned this perfectly. Intelligence Officer Kang Ji-won worked frantically at her station aboard the Resilience. Her job was to intercept and decode alien communications. What she was hearing made her sick with fear and anger. The aliens were talking openly about their plan. They called it Solution Final, the complete elimination of the human species. Not just the ships here at the council station, but everywhere. Every human colony, every outpost, every research station scattered across their 47 worlds. Commander Yoon, she called out, her voice shaking. "You need to hear this." She played back the intercepted communication. An alien voice, speaking in the clicking language of the Nexari, was giving orders to attack fleets throughout human space. Strike teams are in position at Sol system. The human homeworld will be the first target. Colony worlds will be hit simultaneously. No human installations should survive the next 6 hours. Yoon Da-un listened in horror. Earth was under attack right now. Her family lived on Earth. Her daughter was only 8 years old. Billions of humans had no idea what was coming. "Why are they doing this?" asked Lieutenant Park Jin-soo. Kang Ji-won had found more transmissions. "Because they're afraid of us. They've been watching our expansion for 50 years. In that time, we've colonized more worlds than most species manage in 1,000 years. We've made alliances with 6 non-council races. We've solved problems they couldn't solve." She pulled up more data on her screen. "Look at this. Internal council documents from the past decade. They call us the expansion species and the adaptation threat. They think that in another 50 years, we'll be powerful enough to challenge their control of the galaxy. So they decided to kill us all before we get that strong," Yoon Da-un said quietly. The trap was brilliant in its cruelty. Invite humanity's leaders to a diplomatic meeting, then surround them with overwhelming force while simultaneously attacking every human world. By the time anyone on Earth realized what was happening, the human government would be dead and their colonies would be burning. On another human ship, the UES Courage, Captain Moon Sung-ho was watching his crew prepare for a battle they could not win. His weapons officer was a young woman named Lee Hye-jin, who had just graduated from the military academy 6 months ago. She was trying very hard not to cry as she ran diagnostics on their weapon systems. "Captain," she said, "even if all our ships work together perfectly, we can't destroy more than maybe 20 of their vessels before they overwhelm us." Moon Sung-ho nodded grimly. "I know, but we have to try. Maybe we can buy some time for a few ships to escape and warn Earth." But even as he said it, more alien ships were moving to block all escape routes. The Council had thought of everything. In the Council chamber, Admiral Kim Tae-ho was still standing in the center of the room, his hand on his emergency communicator. The alien representatives were no longer pretending to be diplomatic. Chancellor Veltar's crystal body was glowing brighter, which Kim Tae-ho had learned meant the Vorthak was excited or pleased. "You seem surprised, Admiral," Veltar said. "Did you really think we would allow your species to continue its dangerous expansion?" "We offered friendship," Kim Tae-ho replied. "We shared our knowledge. We helped your people." "Yes, you did," agreed one of the Etherian representatives, its gaseous form swirling in its containment field. "And that made you even more dangerous. A species that conquers through war, we understand. A species that conquers through friendship and aid. That is something we cannot control." Ambassador Park So-young was pale but still trying to negotiate. "There must be another way. We can limit our expansion. We can accept restrictions on our territory." "The decision has been made," said Veltar. "Your ships will be destroyed in the next hour. Your worlds are already under attack. In 6 hours, the human threat will be ended forever." Dr. Lee Min-ho, still sitting in the observer section, spoke up for the first time. "You're making a mistake. Humans don't give up easily. We've survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that would have ended other species. Attacking us might not go the way you think it will." Several of the aliens made sounds that their translators turned into laughter. "Your species has been in space for less than a century," said a Nexari representative. "We have been ruling the galaxy for 1,000,000 years. We know how to deal with upstart races." Kim Tae-ho listened to their words and felt something cold settle in his chest. These aliens had studied humanity for 50 years. They knew about human technology, human military capabilities, human colony locations. They thought they understood everything about his species, but they had made one crucial error. They had assumed that humans were just another alien race, like all the others they had encountered over their 1,000,000-year reign. They did not understand that Earth was different from other worlds. They did not know what kind of planet could produce a species like humanity. Most importantly, they did not know about the protocols. Captain Choi Hyun-woo's voice came through Kim Tae-ho's communicator again. "Admiral, they're powering up weapons. We have maybe 10 minutes before they start firing. What are your orders?" Kim Tae-ho looked around the council chamber one more time. 12 species that had ruled the galaxy since before humans discovered fire. They were so confident, so certain of their victory. They had no idea what they were about to unleash. He pressed the activation switch on his emergency communicator. The device was connected to quantum transmitters that could reach every corner of human space instantly. Every human military installation, every colony defense force, every ship captain would receive his message simultaneously. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-ho," he said calmly into the device. "Authorization code Alpha 77 Omega. Protocol activation is authorized." He paused for just a moment, then spoke the single word that would change the galaxy forever. The aliens in the council chamber had no idea what the word meant. They would learn soon enough. The word echoed across the galaxy at the speed of quantum transmission, reaching every human outpost, colony, and military installation in less than 3 seconds. Siege. Colonel Seo Jae-min was eating lunch in his office on Mars when the priority alert flashed on his screen. The cafeteria food turned to ash in his mouth as he read the single-word transmission. His hands started shaking as he realized what it meant. Every human military officer knew about the siege protocol. It was taught in their first week of training, then never mentioned again unless absolutely necessary. It was the plan for if humanity ever faced complete extinction. It was the word that meant civilization itself was under attack. Seo Jae-min stood up from his desk and walked to his safe. Inside was a sealed envelope marked with the highest security classification. He had never opened it in 15 years of service. His orders were simple. If the word siege ever came from proper authority, open the envelope and follow the instructions inside exactly. The envelope contained a list of coordinates and activation codes. Locations scattered across Mars that looked like ordinary mining facilities and research stations. But Seo Jae-min now understood they were something much more dangerous. Admiral Bae Haijin was reviewing supply reports aboard her flagship in the Tau Ceti system when her communications officer burst into her ready room without knocking. "Admiral, Priority 1 transmission from Earth Command. Authorization Alpha 77 Omega." She took the message pad and read the single word. Her face went completely white. She had been a military officer for 23 years and had never heard the siege protocol activated. "Sound General Quarters," she ordered. "All ships, battle stations. Send the activation codes to all depot commanders in this system." On Earth, General Nam Ki-young was having dinner with his family when every communication device in his house started screaming emergency alerts. His wife and children watched in confusion as he jumped up from the table and ran to his personal secure terminal. The word siege appeared on the screen along with Admiral Kim Tae-ho's authorization codes. Nam Ki-young felt the blood drain from his face. He kissed his wife and children, told them he loved them, then left for his command center. He might never see them again. The siege protocol had been designed 20 years ago, after humanity's first contact with hostile aliens in the Centauri system. Military planners had realized that humans were small and new compared to the ancient galactic powers. If those powers ever decided humanity was a threat, they would try to eliminate the entire species at once. The protocol was humanity's answer to that threat. If diplomatic contact ever failed completely, if humanity ever faced extinction, one word would transform their entire civilization from explorers and traders into something much more dangerous. "Captain Moon." Sung-ho received the transmission, while still preparing to fight hopeless odds against the Council fleet. His bridge crew looked confused when he suddenly stopped giving combat orders and started accessing classified computer systems. "Captain?" asked his weapons officer Lee Haijin. "What's happening?" "Change of plans," Moon Sung-ho said grimly. "We're not trying to escape anymore. We're not trying to fight a defensive battle. The Admiral just activated the siege protocol." "What does that mean?" she asked. Moon Sung-ho's fingers flew over his control panel, entering codes he had memorized but hoped never to use. "It means we stop being the good guys." Across human space, the transformation began immediately. Manufacturing facilities that had been producing farming equipment and medical supplies received new blueprints transmitted from secret military databases. Within minutes, assembly lines were retooling to build weapons, armor, and military spacecraft. Research stations that had been studying alien biology and culture suddenly unlocked classified files that turned their academic knowledge into something deadly. Dr. Shin Bo-ra, working at a xenobiology lab on Europa, watched her computer screen fill with data she had never seen before. The files contained detailed information about every alien species humanity had ever encountered. But this was not the friendly scientific data from cultural exchanges. These were weakness assessments, biological vulnerabilities, psychological pressure points, ways to hurt, disable, or kill every type of alien in the galaxy. "My God," she whispered as she read through the files. "We've been collecting this information for 50 years. Every medical exchange with alien species had included secret tissue samples. Every cultural meeting had included psychological evaluation. Every diplomatic dinner had been a data collection opportunity. While humanity appeared to be learning how to be friends with aliens, they had actually been learning how to destroy them." On the mining colony of Kepler 438b, Director Osu Jin received activation codes that transformed her understanding of everything around her. The asteroid mining operation she had been managing for 8 years was not really a mining operation at all. Hidden inside the asteroid belt were thousands of automated manufacturing plants, disguised as simple mineral extraction facilities. But when Osu Jin entered her activation codes, they revealed their true purpose. They were von Neumann machines designed to build weapons and warships from raw asteroid material. Within hours, they would be producing a fleet larger than anything humanity had ever built before. Captain Choi Hyun-woo felt his ship shudder as new systems came online. The UES Defender looked like a peaceful escort vessel from the outside, but the siege protocol activated hidden modifications that had been built into every human ship for the past decade. Weapon systems that had been disguised as communication arrays deployed from concealed bays, armor plating that had been hidden beneath decorative hull panels locked into place, shield generators that had been listed as environmental systems powered up to full capacity. "Captain," his tactical officer called out in amazement, "our combat rating just increased by 400%. What kind of ship are we really flying?" "The kind we hoped we'd never need," Choi Hyun-woo replied grimly. In the council chamber, the aliens were still talking about their perfect trap when alarms started sounding throughout the station. Chancellor Veltar's crystal body flickered with confused light patterns. "What is that noise?" he demanded. A Nexari technician was checking data feeds from sensors around the station. "The human ships, they're changing configuration. They appear to be much more heavily armed than our intelligence indicated." Admiral Kim Tae-ho smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "Did you really think we would come to a diplomatic meeting without any backup plans?" Ambassador Park So-young was staring at him in shock. "Admiral, what have you done?" "I've activated humanity's real response to galactic threats," he said calmly. "For 50 years, you aliens have been studying us, learning our weaknesses, planning how to defeat us. But we've been studying you too." He turned to address the entire council. "You think you know humanity because you've seen our diplomats and our traders. You've met our scientists and our artists, but you've never met us when we're actually trying to kill someone." Dr. Lee Min-ho was accessing files on his personal tablet, his face growing pale as he read. "Admiral, some of these modifications to our colonies. When did we start building these defenses?" "The day after first contact," Kim Tae-ho replied. "We learned very quickly that the galaxy is not a safe place for new species. We decided to be ready if anyone ever tried to eliminate us." The quantum transmissions were still spreading across human space, activating systems that had been hidden for decades. Colony ships that had been listed as missing or lost to accidents were actually in deep space, following predetermined courses to strategic positions around every major alien world. Military installations that aliens thought were research bases began revealing their true purpose. Defensive satellites that had been disguised as weather monitoring systems powered up their weapon arrays. Underground bunkers that had been built for asteroid impact protection opened to reveal massive stockpiles of advanced weapons. Captain Ryu Yon-ho, commanding a human science vessel near the Etherian homeworld, received his activation codes and felt his hands tremble as he realized what his research mission had really been about. For 3 years, he had been studying Etherian biology and culture, supposedly to help with diplomatic relations, but now he understood his real purpose. His ship's sensors had been mapping every Etherian city, every military installation, every weakness in their defenses. The atmospheric samples his crew had been collecting contained specific harmonic frequencies that caused pain and disorientation to Etherian consciousness. The cultural recordings they had made included psychological triggers that could cause mass panic among gaseous life forms. Sir, his science officer asked nervously, are we really going to use this information as a weapon? Ryu Yanho looked at the activation codes one more time, then at the Etherian homeworld floating peacefully below them. The aliens just tried to commit genocide against our entire species. What do you think? The galaxy's first taste of what humanity really was came 18 hours after Admiral Kim Tae-ho spoke the word siege. Commander Yoon Da-eun watched from the bridge of the UES Resilience as the impossible happened around her. The Council fleet that had surrounded them with overwhelming numbers was falling apart. Not from superior firepower, but from something much worse. The Etherian battle group had retreated first. Captain Ryu Yan-ho had broadcast a simple message toward their ships. A recording of specific sound frequencies that caused unbearable pain to their gaseous consciousness. The entire fleet of 37 vessels fled in agony, their crews screaming across communication channels. How did we know that would work? Asked Lieutenant Park Jin-soo. Because we've been studying them for 50 years, Yoon Da-eun replied grimly. Every cultural exchange, every scientific collaboration, every friendly meeting was also intelligence gathering. The Vorthak crystal ships were having different problems. Their beautiful living crystal hulls were developing hairline fractures that spread like infection. Dr. Shin Bo-ra's xenobiology teams had released an engineered virus into space around the station, one designed specifically to attack Vorthak crystal matrices. Chancellor Veltar's voice came over the communication system, no longer calm and controlled. What have you done to our ships? We cured your people of the rot plague 20 years ago, Admiral Kim Tae-ho replied from the council chamber. Did you think we didn't keep samples of the bacteria? Did you think we couldn't modify them to attack crystal instead of organic tissue? The Nexari cybernetic warships were experiencing system failures as their computer networks became infected with adaptive viruses. Every piece of human technology the Nexari had ever studied had contained hidden programming, waiting for the right activation signal. Captain Moon Sung-ho's ship, the UES Courage, was no longer running from superior numbers. Instead, his crew was broadcasting continuous data streams that overloaded alien computer systems and turned their own weapons against them. Captain, called his weapons officer, Lee Hee-jin, 3 more Nexari ships just lost main power. Their cybernetic implants are malfunctioning. Some of their crew members are shutting down completely. Moon Sung-ho felt sick as he watched alien ships drift helplessly in space. I never wanted to fight a war like this. Neither did they, replied his tactical officer. But they started it. The transformation of human space was happening faster than anyone had believed possible. Director Oh Soo-jin watched from her command center as thousands of hidden von Neumann manufacturing plants came online throughout the asteroid belt. They had been disguised as mining operations for 8 years, but now they revealed their true purpose. Raw asteroid material flowed into the machines and emerged as completed warships, weapon systems, and automated defense platforms. The production rate was terrifying. Every hour, dozens of new vessels appeared where none had existed before. How long can we sustain this level of production? Asked her chief engineer, Won Dae-hyun. According to the computer models, indefinitely, Oh Soo-jin replied. These machines can build more machines. They're designed to grow exponentially until we tell them to stop. On Earth, General Nam Ki-young was coordinating the defense of humanity's homeworld, but it was not the desperate, hopeless defense he had expected. The alien fleets approaching Earth were already in trouble. Human colonies throughout the solar system had activated hidden weapons that had been built into asteroids, space stations, and even the surfaces of moons. Mars alone revealed over 300 concealed missile launchers. Jupiter's moons opened up to show massive railgun installations that had been disguised as research facilities. Sir, his aide reported, the alien fleet attacking Earth has lost 40% of their ships and they haven't even reached our outer defenses yet. Nam Ki-young studied the tactical display. They expected to find a peaceful planet protected by a few patrol ships. Instead, they found a fortress that's been preparing for this attack for 50 years. The psychological warfare was as effective as the military strikes. Every alien species was receiving targeted communications designed to exploit their specific cultural and biological fears. The aquatic hydrons found their breathing apparatus failing as human-designed. Nanobots contaminated their water supplies. The insect-like Chitauri discovered that humans had developed perfect pheromone mimics that sent their hive minds into chaos. The energy-based lumina were being bombarded with electromagnetic frequencies that disrupted their consciousness. Admiral Cho Min-seok, commanding the human forces in the Outer Rim, watched as alien colony worlds began asking for peace negotiations within the first day of fighting. "They're not used to fighting an enemy that knows their weaknesses," he explained to his staff officers. "For 1,000,000 years, they've been the ones with superior knowledge and technology. Now they're facing a species that spent 50 years learning everything about them, while pretending to be harmless." But the most terrifying revelation for the aliens was still to come. Captain Lee Sun-woo led a small human fleet to the Vorthak homeworld, where billions of crystal beings lived in massive cities that stretched across entire continents. Instead of attacking the cities directly, Lee Sun-woo deployed a different kind of weapon. His ships released clouds of microscopic machines into the planet's atmosphere. The machines were programmed with one simple task: find Vorthak crystal technology and make it slightly less efficient. Within hours, every piece of Vorthak technology on the planet began to malfunction in small ways. Transportation systems moved 10% slower. Communication networks had constant static. Power systems provided 90% of their normal output. The effect was not immediately life-threatening, but it was psychologically devastating. The Vorthak had built their entire civilization on the perfection of their crystal technology. Now that perfection was gone, replaced by constant small failures that made daily life frustrating and difficult. "This is a more effective weapon than destroying their cities," Lee Sun-woo explained to his crew. "If we destroyed their cities, they would rebuild and grow stronger. But if we make their technology unreliable, they will doubt everything they have built." The aquatic hydrons faced a different kind of terror. Human teams led by Captain Eugene A. had spent decades studying hydron biology during friendly scientific exchanges. Now that knowledge became a weapon. The humans released modified algae into hydron water worlds. The algae was not poisonous or directly harmful, but it changed the chemical composition of their water in subtle ways. Food began to taste different. Breathing became slightly more difficult. Swimming required more energy. The hydrons were not dying, but their entire environment was becoming gradually more hostile. Their beautiful underwater cities were still intact, but living in them was becoming uncomfortable and stressful. "We could have released poison that would kill them all in hours," Eugene reported to her commanders. "Instead, we're making their world unlivable slowly. They will have to leave or negotiate." The machine hybrid Nexari faced the cruelest fate of all. Their cybernetic implants, which connected them to vast computer networks, became weapons against them. Human programmers had hidden viruses in every piece of technology the Nexari had ever studied. Now those viruses activated simultaneously across their empire. Nexari individuals found their mechanical parts turning against their organic components. Computer implants sent pain signals directly to their brains. Mechanical limbs refused to obey commands. Life support systems provided just enough oxygen to survive, but not enough to be comfortable. Chief Engineer Won Dae-hyun, monitoring the cyber attacks from his command center, felt sickened by what humanity was doing. "Are we the good guys in this war?" he asked his commander. "There are no good guys," replied Director Oh Soo-jin. "There are only species that survive and species that don't." The aliens made their choice when they decided to commit genocide. In the council chamber, the alien representatives were no longer confident and in control. Their crystal body flickered with panic colors. Gas-form beings swirled frantically in their containment fields. Machine hybrids sparked with electrical failures. "Stop this," Chancellor Veltar pleaded with Admiral Kim Tae-ho. "We did not realize." "We did not understand." "Understand what?" Kim Tae-ho asked calmly. "That humans fight back when you try to exterminate us. That we don't just surrender when faced with overwhelming odds?" Ambassador Park So-young was staring at readouts from across the galaxy, her face pale with shock. "Admiral, our forces are not just defending anymore. We're attacking alien homeworlds. Billions of innocent civilians are experiencing what they tried to do to us," Kim Tae-ho finished. "The difference is we're being more merciful. We're making their worlds unpleasant, not destroying them completely." Dr. Lee Min-ho was reading reports from human scientists across the galaxy. "These weapons, we've been developing them for decades. Every medical exchange, every cultural program, every research project was also weapons development." "Yes," Kim Tae-ho confirmed, "because we learned something important after first contact. The galaxy is full of species that see newcomers as threats to be eliminated. We decided to be ready for that. The aliens were beginning to understand that they had not attacked an innocent, peaceful species. 6 months after the betrayal at the Galactic Council Station, the galaxy had learned a terrible lesson about underestimating humanity. Fleet Admiral Lim Chan-woo stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, flagship of humanity's new siege fleet. Through the viewports, he could see the Vorthak homeworld below, its crystal cities dim and flickering with system failures. The beautiful planet that had once been the crown, jewel of galactic civilization, now looked sick and dying. Status. Report, he ordered his tactical officer. Vorthak defense grid is down to 30% efficiency, came the reply. Their crystal technology continues to degrade. 3 more cities have requested humanitarian assistance. Lim Chan-woo nodded grimly. The siege of Vorthak Prime was not a military bombardment. It was something much more sophisticated and cruel. Human forces had surrounded the planet and were slowly, methodically destroying everything that made Vorthak civilization possible. The crystalline beings were not dying in large numbers, but their entire way of life was crumbling. Their perfect crystal technology, developed over millions of years, was being corrupted by human-designed viruses that made every system unreliable. Transportation failed randomly. Communication networks carried false messages. Even their food production systems were producing nutrients that tasted wrong. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving another surrender request from the Vorthak Council." "Same terms as before," Lim Chan-woo replied. "Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council, full reparations for their attack on humanity, and recognition of human territorial sovereignty over all our claimed systems." The surrender requests had been coming daily for 3 months now. Every alien species in the galaxy was begging humanity to stop the siege and accept peace negotiations. But Admiral Kim Tae-ho's orders were clear. No negotiations until the aliens accepted humanity's terms completely. On the Etherian homeworld of Ethros, Captain Ryu Yun-ho commanded a human fleet that had turned the gaseous planet into a prison. The Etherians could not leave their atmosphere because human ships surrounded their world with a field generator that disrupted their consciousness whenever they tried to escape. Worse, the humans were slowly changing the chemical composition of Ethros' atmosphere, not enough to kill the Etherians, but enough to make their existence uncomfortable and difficult. The gaseous beings who had once floated freely through their world now struggled with every movement. "Captain," his science officer reported, "the Etherian leadership is requesting another meeting. They're willing to discuss individual reparations for every human colony they attacked." Ryu Yun-ho shook his head. "Not good enough. They need to understand that actions have permanent consequences. The siege was not just military. It was economic, biological, and psychological warfare designed to make alien civilizations understand that attacking humanity had been the worst mistake in galactic history. Human forces had captured or destroyed every major trade route in the galaxy. Species that had relied on interstellar commerce for thousands of years were now trapped on their homeworlds, unable to trade for resources they needed. The Nexari, who had built their empire on technology exchange, were reduced to using primitive mechanical systems because their computer networks were too corrupted to function. Ambassador Jung Hai-wan broadcast humanity's terms to the galaxy every day from her mobile command station. She was no longer the hopeful diplomat seeking acceptance. She was the voice of a species that had been pushed too far and was now dictating terms to their attackers. "People of the galaxy," she said in her daily broadcast, "6 months ago your leaders decided that humanity was too dangerous to exist. They tried to exterminate our entire species. Today you are learning what too dangerous really means. The non-council species that had befriended humanity watched in awe and terror as their human allies demonstrated why their rapid expansion across the galaxy had been so frightening to the established powers. The Corvani, a reptilian species that had been humanity's first alien friends, were protected by human fleets but still shocked by what they witnessed. Captain Yu Jin-A, who had worked with Corvani scientists for years, tried to explain humanity's actions to her alien friends. "We offered peace," she told Corvani Ambassador Sektar during a diplomatic meeting. "We offered friendship and cooperation. Your council friends chose war instead. Now they're learning what human war really looks like." "But the suffering," Sektar protested. "Billions of beings are living in fear and hardship. Billions of humans would have been dead if their plan had worked. Eugene replied coldly. At least we're keeping them alive. The Threnodi, an insect-like species that humanity had saved from plague years earlier, remained loyal to their human friends but were disturbed by the efficiency of human warfare. Their queen speaker Hivara met with human commanders to express concern. Your species fights unlike any we have seen, she communicated through pheromone translators. You do not simply defeat enemies, you remake them. Chief Engineer Wande Hyun, now overseeing the construction of humanity's mobile siege platforms, nodded at the aliens' observation. Our homeworld taught us that survival isn't just about winning fights. It's about making sure your enemies can never threaten you again. The siege platforms were perhaps humanity's most terrifying innovation. Massive installations that could support entire fleets while remaining hidden in nebulae and dark matter clouds. They could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning, making human forces effectively unstoppable. Each platform was a self-contained industrial complex, capable of building ships, weapons, and supplies from raw space materials. They made humanity's forces immune to supply line attacks and allowed them to maintain pressure on alien worlds indefinitely. How many platforms do we have operational now? Asked Admiral Cho Min-seok during a command briefing. 47 and growing, Won De-hyun reported. The von Neumann manufacturing systems are building new platforms faster than we can staff them. At current production rates, we'll have over 100 within a year. The psychological impact on alien populations was devastating. For millions of years, they had lived under the protection of the Galactic Council, believing themselves safe from external threats. Now they discovered that their protectors were helpless against a species they had considered primitive. Human propaganda broadcasts, delivered by specialists who understood alien psychology, were breaking down the morale of entire civilizations. The broadcasts reminded aliens daily that their leaders had chosen to start this war, and that humanity was being merciful by not simply exterminating them all. Dr. Shin Bora, now leading humanity's xenological warfare division, had perfected techniques for psychological warfare against each species. The broadcasts were tailored to exploit specific alien fears and cultural weaknesses. The Vorthak fear chaos and disorder above all else, she explained to her team. So we show them images of their failing technology and remind them that their perfect crystal civilization is crumbling. The Etherians fear being trapped or confined, so we broadcast recordings of enclosed spaces and solid barriers. The most devastating broadcasts were reserved for the Nexari. Their hybrid organic-mechanical nature made them vulnerable to existential fears about identity and purpose. Human psychologists had crafted messages that made the Nexari question whether they were truly alive or just sophisticated machines programmed to think they had consciousness. Entire Nexari colonies had shut down as their populations fell into philosophical paralysis, unable to function while questioning their own existence. The final breaking point came when human forces demonstrated their ultimate capability. Admiral Kim Tae-ho, now bearing the scars and exhaustion of 6 months of total warfare, authorized the deployment of humanity's most closely guarded secret. The Genesis contingency was not a weapon in any traditional sense. It was a complete ecosystem modification system, capable of terraforming entire worlds to match human biological needs while making them uninhabitable for other species. When human engineers deployed Genesis nanobots on the Nexari industrial world of Mechanicus Prime, the planet's entire atmosphere began changing within hours. The air became rich with oxygen and nitrogen, perfect for human lungs but toxic to Nexari respiratory systems. The message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity could not only defeat alien civilizations, they could literally remake alien worlds to suit human needs. No species would ever be safe in their own territory if they made humanity an enemy. The surrender came on a Tuesday. Representatives from all 12 Council species arrived at the human siege platform in the Kepler system, the same system where the betrayal had begun 6 months earlier. They came in damaged ships, their once proud fleets reduced to desperate refugees begging for mercy. Admiral Kim Tae-ho met them in a conference room aboard the siege platform. He looked older now, his hair more gray, his face marked by the stress of conducting total warfare against an entire galaxy. But his eyes were steady and cold as he looked at the alien representatives who had tried to exterminate his species. Chancellor Veltar of the Vorthak was barely recognizable. His crystal body was cracked and dim, his once bright internal light flickering weakly. The other alien representatives were equally diminished, gas beings contained in failing life support systems.